So today I am bringing on one of my clients so that you can see yourself through somebody else's journey. This is a woman who did not want to, she would rather fail public speaking in school than actually speak up and get the grade. So you are going to hear from Lisa Marie Robinson. She is the Sassy Wealth Coach. We've been working together for a while now. She is just really embracing using stages, using specifically stages, because she originally thought TV, but she's fallen in love with stages because of the impact she could have on more people. Let's get on to the show. Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You just have such an interesting story, which is part of the reason why I wanted to bring you onto the podcast, not just because you're a client of mine, but you really are embracing speaking. But before we even get there, let's just talk about your story. Would you just kind of introduce yourself to my audience and give them a little bit the highlights of your path?
Sure. My name is Lisa Marie. I am the Sassy Wealth Coach. I'm a money coach / CFO for women entrepreneurs. Basically, what I do is I help them change their money stories and their money mindset and manage their money better so they can step into what they're really wanting and having a money management system that works for them, their business, and their lifestyle. And when we do that, they find that they're not fearing their money so much and that it's not full of chaos like most of us really believe.
Yeah. How did you get here? Because you didn't, you don't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a money coach when I grow up.
No, I was in the corporate for years. And if I'm honest, I always wanted to own a business, but what I wanted to own was a consignment store. I may still one day do that. But I wanted to have a consignment store. I don't know. It's just something that's always been back in my head. I've always wanted it I'll be 50 in July, and for at least 30 years, I've thought about it.
Okay. So there was always this entrepreneurial, dream or voice in the back.
But it always seemed just beyond reach.
Okay.
And I've always worked corporate and I have accounting experience. I've always, I wasn't always good with money. But I always tried to get better with it. And if I think back, there were times I was really good with it, but then all of a sudden it would be gone. And now I know that that's because I didn't have a good relationship with money. I had money stories that I believed. And so the way I behaved with my money always made sure I got right back to where I was barely making it. The last corporate job I had for about 15 years. I was in there auditing the accounting department, working 60 hours a week, barely making ends meet. They'd already done, up to a dozen layoffs over the years. And the last one I didn't make it through. So that was September of 2016. Mm-hmm. And at first, I was really upset. I wasn't sure what I was going to do other than go start looking for another job. But I kept hearing a voice telling me that now was my time and I was needed at home. Those are the words that kept replaying in my head. So I think I took about 2 weeks to make the decision, but mm-hmm. I made the decision that my new job was going to be me working for myself. I was already trying to do bookkeeping on the side. So I thought that would be, kind of where I would go, because my decision had been that if I was barely going to make ends meet, it was going to be on my terms. I wasn't going after it for money. I was going after it for freedom, because I felt like I had balls and chains.
Hold on 1 second. All right. What was it like? I just want to dive into that decision when you were just like, that's it. I'm starting my own business. I mean, what was that? Was that like you drawing a line in the sand?
Yes, it was like I was drawing a line in the sand. It was more or less a very scary line. But it was a decision, honestly, after 1 week of me not working that corporate job, I had already started seeing that I didn't have to take the Excedrin tension headache medicine as much.
Right.
And that I'd been literally 3 days without an Imitrex. And I basically lived off of Imitrex. I had a prescription in my purse and I had Excedrin tension headache medicine like everywhere with me. And so I thought long and hard and I made the decision of, okay, this is how I can make it work. And it was now or never. So I made the decision. And once I made that decision, to hold myself accountable, I put it out there for the whole entire world to see. I posted
Talk about accountability.
Yep. I posted on Facebook. Now, was it well received by everybody? No.
How do you know
some of the stories came back.
How do you know that it wasn't well received?
Oh, because I was told I was crazy.
Okay.
I was told I needed to act my age. I needed to go and find a job. I was told that I had responsibilities and I wasn't doing my responsibility. I was told that who did I think I was that I could run a successful business, which again, the whole purpose, I know going in order to make money, the business needs to be profitable. But again, I'd worked corporate for over 20 years and the max amount of money I made a year was $45,000.
Okay. So your specialty, and I want to share this with the audience, is that Lisa really helps people with their stories around money, because stories, money mindset, and money management go hand in hand. That's what she stands on, like morning, noon, and night.
But I didn't find that out at first.
Right. But here's what I'm hearing with all of these people who were giving you their input about you being crazy. Who do you think you are? Those were their stories.
Right.
That they were trying to put on to you because, don't you go making a successful business, because I've always wanted to have a successful business, but I never had the courage to act on my dreams.
Or they have the money and they have a successful business and, especially family. Who are you to think that you could actually, do this? You weren't born into money and you didn't marry into money. And so again, those are all stories. But what I found is that I'm really good with spreadsheets. I'm really good with finagling numbers. And so when I say finagling, I had a client who she told me, she said, Lisa, I've had a death in the family. I'm coming into $15,000. I really want to be wise with this money. I had her give me a list of debt. I had her give me a list of some of the things that she wanted to do with it. I had her give me a list of all the things. And I literally then gave her back 3 different ways that she could spend the money or use the money and it be wisely, including putting money up or whatever. And then we decided on what way she really wanted. She didn't want to use the money to pay off debt. What she was really wanting to do was put it towards saving for a house, with maybe a small portion being used towards something else. And so I gave her 3 different ways. And she's like, oh my gosh, you gave me multiple ways. And all of it's it gets things accomplished. Now, that's what I do. I have another client who says that I look at her bank account, I see the exact same amount that she sees, but I am able to determine, okay, you can do this, this, and this with it. And all she sees is a number and her mind just goes blank. And once I realized that the money stories affected our mindset and our mindset affected our money management, and I did a lot of work around that, I found that I'm not the only one, especially with women. And I found that if we work on the mindset, we're able to actually be better at the money management. And so, because I've had clients who are great at money management, and they don't have a great mindset. And then I have clients who can manifest to cows come home, but they're still broke because they're not managing their money. So I I stand on it. I'm the only money coach that says that. Money management and money mindset go hand in hand. They have to in order for you to truly live life on your terms and be wealthy. And to me, wealthy is having the freedom and living life on your lifestyle. Because we can all be rich and not be happy and living life on
Right. Right. So look, can we just dive into that wealthy lifestyle? Because you and I have talked about this in depth, that it's like, one, you're not a cookie cutter money mindset, money management, fractional CFO that's out there. You really believe in, and this is what I love about you, is that like you look at each client as an individual case. So when somebody is trying to create their wealthy lifestyle, like, what is that? How do you help them see that their wealthy lifestyle is possible?
Well, one of the things I do when I talk to a new client is I find out where they are. Where are they at in their money management, their money mindset? Where are they at in their business? Where are they at, in all aspects of life? And that doesn't mean just physically, that means mentally, everything, because starting where the client is at is really important. Because if someone would have tried to start me, for example, working out and doing, burpees from the very beginning when I hadn't worked out in God knows how long, I would have never continued, right? So, but when I started working out, my burpees were basically standing up against the wall with my feet out. And now they're not. Sometimes I wish they were. But the point is I kept going because my trainer started with me where I was at, which is the same concept I do with my clients. And then what we do is we look and yes, we do a deep dive into their money to see if there's anything that needs to be tweaked or changed. But then we also, I have them send me a list of all their goals, big, small, anything and everything in between, business and personal, with a time frame that they would like. And then that kind of gives me an idea of, okay, you know what, this pertains to this. This is how we can reach this. And
so
then
I connect the dots.
And then I'll show them. So I believe in buckets. You know that. I believe in multiple accounts. I actually had a client today say that my business accounts are so much simpler than my personal.
Because of the buckets.
Yeah. Well, I have less buckets in my business than I do my personal. So she said it was a lot simpler. I was like, yes, but you're not saving for a specific vacation in the business, whereas the personal, there's a lot more what do we call it? Ins and outs with our life, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I have them list all those things and give it to me. And then I'm able to help them see what's possible. So like a lot of times when my clients come to me, they think they know what it's called the profit first method. So they think they want to do that, but they're not quite sure. And it seems overwhelming. And then when they work with me, I start off really small. I don't have them go open up all the accounts. I say, okay, this is what I want you to start with. Or if I see there might be one account that we need to add, like, okay, this is how you can get here. And then with the personal ones, I'll have them, when they're giving the goals, I'll say, okay, well, have you thought about opening up 2 personal savings accounts and naming it this and this? And they're like, why would I do that? And I'm like, based off of this. And then I help them see from, people hate the word budget, but I created what's called an all-inclusive budget. You can call it a money management system. You can call it spending plan. It's the same thing, but I create that and I help my clients with it. And what we do based off of that is we're able to build from it so that they're allocating the money where they really want it to go.
I love that. And so you're getting your message out to the masses. So we're going to transition into how you are getting your message out there. And you stepped into speaking. I remember you liking a bunch of my posts when I was launching my program in demand signature speech. I was like, Lisa, why don't you consider joining this? And you were like, nope.
Nope, I don't do group programs.
And your sassiness, like I have a tendency to mirror people. And so I just mirrored your sassiness, hence the name Sassy Wealth Coach. Like, well, maybe we need to talk about working together. And you were like, yep.
I was like, oh, crap. I honestly, if you would have asked me, or if someone would have come up with a crystal ball and said, when I was 16, 17 years old, Lisa, you are going to be on stage speaking, I would have told them to go check themselves into a mental hospital. Because Lisa doesn't like getting on stage. Lisa hated public speaking, so much so that I barely passed public speaking. And then I think the only reason I took it in college when I went back to school was because I could do it online. And so it was.
Share your story about the online one, because you shared that.
That I recorded it 5 times before
She recorded it 5 times before she finally submitted it.
I'll give you one better that I haven't told you. Ooh. When I went and started my business, and eventually it started evolving. And once a coach said, you know what, why don't you do coaching calls with your clients? And I was like, coaching calls on the phone? They're like, no, via Zoom. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I did like 2 a day because I had to go get dressed and get ready. And then I had to take deep breathing, make sure I looked okay, makeup and all from head up. And I know you've seen me plenty of times now that you know how I show up to my Zoom calls most of the time. And his hair pulled up in a ponytail, no makeup on, and I'm in my workout clothes. But for the first 6 months to a year, I put on makeup before 8. If there was a call starting at 11 and 12, I had to have 10 to 11 blocked off for me to go get ready. Because I grew up corporate. That was the specific way. And one of the coaches I met with, honest to God, she had some hair wrap around her head when I met with her. Because she's like, honey, we work from home. We can wear whatever we want to wear. And I was like, I was like, you mean I won't be judged for showing up to a coaching call, with one of my clients in my work outfit? And I haven't been judged.
No, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I love how you have stepped into speaking, just embraced it, because you're sharing your story, and your story is making a difference. And whenever I talk about you to other people, especially like if I'm on a podcast as a guest, I'm like, I got another guest for you. She's got a great rags to riches story. But you're getting out there and just sharing your methodology, mm-hmm. which is really changing other women's lives.
I hope so. That's my mission. I decided that one of the best ways to reach more women, help empower more women to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, to be able to be empowered by their money instead of fearing it, was to be on other people's stages and pages, as a previous coach calls it. And the best way to do that was speaking. So, I found certain media outlets weren't my jam, but I'm finding that speaking on stage and podcasts and things like that are, especially speaking on stage. I mean, that's honestly, I've set a goal at the year for podcasts, but also speaking on stages. And we're halfway through, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to set another goal for next year. Because I think it's important. I think if I'm able to, my idea is the more people I'm able to reach, the more women I can reach, the more people I can empower, then the more of us that are empowered by money, we can change the world. Because honestly, when you read all the stuff about people that have how they've changed the world, it's been one person at a time, right? But it's a collective of one person at a time. So if I speak and I'm able to help someone in that audience, and then they go and do the same thing, or refer someone, and it's a domino effect, then I don't know. I like the idea of someone else realizing that money doesn't have to be a taboo subject. Money doesn't have to be full of chaos. And just because you didn't come from money and didn't marry into money doesn't mean you can't have money, because I'm living proof that's not true.
That is so true.
It's so far from the truth. But it's a story that some of us are often told, and then we end up telling ourselves.
We end up believing it, and
we tell ourselves that story basically in our heads every day.
And then if we have children, we're telling the children that, and then they, again, like you're just repeating like the way that you grew up. We're just repeating generations of this story. And you are, I know that you've got 2 little girls, and you are changing like the stories that they're telling themselves about.
I hope so. I don't know. There are days I don't think they get it, and then there's days I think they do. But again, it's I just think it's important for us to realize, I'm constantly saying that just like mental health, our society has made mental health and money such a taboo subject. It's something we're not supposed to talk about. We're not supposed to talk about whether we have money, whether we don't, how much money we make, what we do with our money. We're just not supposed to talk about those things. And to me, I think we should be. I think we should be talking about all of it. I think there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. I don't think all debt's bad. And there are a lot of money gurus that do, and I happen to disagree. And I tell people why. It's perfect example. Buying a house is not bad debt. Many of us aren't going to have $40,000 to go put down on a house to do a 15-year mortgage. I make great money. I'm not going to be able to put enough money down to do a 15-year mortgage. There's no way. However, me going into a 30-year mortgage wouldn't be to me is not a bad debt. Having credit cards isn't bad necessarily. It's what we're doing with them. It's how we're using them or utilizing them. And, I tell people all the time, it's the same thing with your debit card. Are you spending it frivolously where the money's just disappearing, or are you actually spending it wisely to where you're able to keep things paid off on a, consistently basis? And there's a difference.
Yeah. And this is what, like what you're sharing with audiences, to give them like, there's another way. So what's it been like crafting your story, your speech while we've been working together?
A pain in the butt. You had to know I was going to say that.
I would expect you to say something like that.
For me, it's been eye-opening. For me, it's been me actually realizing and actually stepping into my power. And even more so, stepping into what I'm passionate about and realizing that I can do this. I am not perfect by any means at public speaking. I am not perfect at being on the stage. I come with many snafus along the way.
But that's what makes your audience fall in love with you, is that
I hope so.
You're just real.
Because the last presentation, my computer, I forgot to turn the snooze go to sleep thing off.
There's always, like I told you.
Now you know what happened when I was in Kentucky. And I have it set when it's not plugged up. Within 2 minutes, y'all, it goes to sleep. Can you imagine how many times I had to wake that laptop up so my
there's always
my slide would come back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an annoying snafu. And I couldn't really take the time to fix it. I was in the middle of my presentation. But I have a note now that is one of the first things I do.
And what I hear from that story is the reason why you didn't go change it, in the middle of your presentation is because you had so much that you wanted to share with that audience. You're like, I'm not even going to waste the 2 minutes that it's going to take me to go change this. I just want to serving the audience.
Sure what someone would think, you know what I mean? I'm going to tell them, hold on a second and go and, and change it. And that be in the middle of a conversation. I mean, it was almost as bad though, because it was in the middle of a conversation when the thing would go out. But yeah, I mean, again, like you said, there are always snafus, which is what I've been told by several people. And so I've realized that being on stage is actually where I belong. That's recorded.
I love that you're finally admitting that, first off. Congratulations. Would you say that you've fallen in love with speaking to get your message out there?
I would not say that. I would say I'm close. I would say that I have fallen in love with the way I'm able to reach more people, more women that I have fallen in. Let me take that back. I have fallen in love with speaking on the subject that I'm absolutely passionate about. Yeah. When I was talking to someone that I'm going to be on their podcast, and they wanted to see if it was going to be a good fit. And he asked some questions, and then he stopped me, and I found myself saying, I'm sorry, I could talk about this all day. He goes, no, that's what I'm seeing. And that's what I want. He said, that's why I'm asking you if you'll be on the podcast. And it's because I get so wound into it because so many women, so many people, but especially women, have a fear of money. Whether there was money trauma, whether there's stories that were told or stories they told themselves, or they're starting over, whatever it is, we all have had something that's just put that fear. Plus, growing up, none of us were ever taught anything about money because, again, it's a taboo subject. You're not supposed to talk about it. And if I'm, again, being able to speak on stage and, like you said, show them that there's another way. Yeah. Show them that it doesn't have to be no debt at all to be okay. It doesn't have to be all this or all that. One of my favorite sayings to one of my clients is, she said to me in the group program, she says, Lisa, she said, I've been told two different things. And I was like, okay, what? And she said, I need to live now, live now, live now. I only have one life. Okay. She goes, but then I also need to save for later, because you never know what's going to happen. And I just looked there and said, why not do both?
Why decide? I love that. Why do you have to
she looked at me and went, huh? I said, why not do both?
Yeah.
I said, why not save for later and live now? You can do both as long as you're planning and preparing it and you do it strategically that way.
Yeah.
Perfect example. I travel for bowling tournaments. I am also saving for trips. This year I decided that I was going to be putting money up into an IRA account for my kids, not for me, because again, I'm going to be 50. So it's not really my retirement, but it's if something happens, I want my girls taken care of. I'm saving for later, but I'm also living now. I'm going on these bowling trips. I'm going on vacation with my girls and sometimes without. I'm going on business trips. Why not do both? And a light bulb went off in her head because she'd been told that she had to do it one way or the other. And now she's like, wait, I can manage my money and do both. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you can tell your story on social media and you can tell your story on stage.
Yeah.
Which is what
You're going to use that against me, right?
you're doing both. I mean,
Right.
you do have a great social media presence, and you're really embracing speaking not only on stages in other people's audiences, other people's events, but also, like you have a podcast goal, like how many podcasts you can be a guest on this year. But I want to sort of address the Meet You in Kentucky, because even before you spoke, the woman who was running the event asked you to apply because she wanted you to come speak again next year.
Yeah, that's what I took it as. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And again, it's, I never would have imagined me doing this. I never would have imagined me stepping on stage, in front of people I don't know. But I have found that being me and going and just being me works, So like when I used to see people who stand on stage, they were all dressed prim, proper in suits. And I think I've actually talked to you about that.
You did say that. You said, if you tell
me I have to wear a pantsuit and a jacket, I'm out.
Yes. And I think
and you're like, why would I tell you that?
Yeah, but I think I also, like, our next meeting, I was like, oh, by the way, you have to wear a pantsuit. You were like, no, because you need to. One of the things that with all of my clients, it's like, whatever your personality is, you've got to have your personality on stage. If wearing a pantsuit is your personality, fantastic. It's not mine. It's not yours. You would rather show up in your cowboy boots
or your sandals, my holy jeans,
your jeans, and something colorful.
Mm-hmm.
You're very colorful. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, Steve
Sassy.
Yeah, my friend Steve Gallon. I mean, like, he gave up the suits. He is a jacket and jeans kind of guy. Like, that's, like, what you wear should represent your brand and your personality, because it's like, I want you to feel comfortable on stage.
Right.
And whatever that outfit is what you should be wearing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and when you told me that, I was like, okay, because I talked to other people and they're like, well, you need to be dressed like this. And I was like, no. And they're like, why? You got to be dressed to impress. I can dress to impress in blue jeans, I promise, with some boots or some sandals with some heels. I threw away the skirts and the jacket, pantsuits, and all of that the day I made the decision I was never going back to corporate.
Very good.
And I've not bought one.
Nice.
Now, I do have some jackets, like some are fitted, some are leather looking, and then some like a blue jean. They can be dressed up. But like I said, I can dress them up just fine without.
That's right. Now, you mentioned earlier that stepping into being a speaker has empowered you. Mm-hmm. Can you talk more on that?
It's empowered me to realize what I'm capable of, how far I've come. It's empowered me that showing me that I do have a story to share, but not only that I have a story to share, that I can make an impact in other people's lives, that I can make an impact in someone's life. And to me, that's everything, because when I was first starting, I had someone who, matter of fact, it was before I went full time. She was coaching me, and she believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time, because I still didn't see it possible. Mm-hmm. And she was actually the one that says, Lisa, she said, there's going to be a door that's going to open. Just know when it opens, you need to take it. And I think it was like 7 months after we stopped working together that the door opened. And I didn't see that it was a door then. But I do now, and I believe it's led me to where I'm at. And I feel even more empowered to be able to speak and say, hey, look, it's okay if you don't see it yet, but I promise you can get there. And I tell people all the time, they'll tell me, well, Lisa, that's great, but I'm not making enough money to where I can do this and save for that and save for later. And I tell people all the time, sure, you know, maybe not. I've been there. I've been broke, so I know how that works. However, majority of the time, if we actually do a deep dive into our expenses, we find things that if we would really truly cut, we could. You know, all those years I was paying for cable, that if I would have made the decision, no, I don't watch that much TV, and would have cut cable out, I could have saved for mini trips, right? But it was something I decided I wanted. Why? I have no idea.
So I'm hearing like this empowerment is also self-trust.
Yeah.
Trusting yourself that you're on the right path, trusting yourself that you are going to, you know, share your story to this audience and know that you're going to impact the right people.
I'm going to impact the right people. I'm going to touch the right people. Someone out there is going to hear what they needed to hear, and it's going to change their lives. I mean, I have a lady who's in my group. I brag about her all the time. She's on a fixed income. She's on a fixed income. She lives in Canada, and it was her goal to be as far away from Canada as possible during the winter and be in Mexico. And I did not know this until after she had done it, but she'd been in my group and she'd been reading my posts. She'd been listening to my Facebook lives, and she went and did those buckets, looked at her spending and put enough money aside to where she paid 6 months in rent for Mexico, paid for her flight, and she spent the entire 6 months of winter over in Mexico with one of her daughters, and then went back to Canada when winter was over. And her goal is to do it again next year. And I told her, I said, well, you know how to do it, you know. And she said she told me that she would have never thought that was possible until I showed her that. And what I told her was, it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with it.
Right. Thank you.
Because it's not. It's how much you do with it.
That's right. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I can see why you're proud of her.
I am. I'm like, it makes me, and technically she's not even a client, but I still made an impact on someone that didn't think they could do something and found out, oh, wait, I can.
And that's exactly what happens when you start sharing your story and sharing your message with the masses. Couple of final questions. And what's it been like working together?
You call me out on my BS, which is something I need. I think I told you that from the beginning. But, you know, I also said the other day that you find a story in everything, which I kind of like sometimes. But honestly, working with you has been great. And I don't know if I don't think I would be at where I'm at in my self-confidence as far as speaking and feeling like this is where I need to be if it wasn't working with you. You helped me with the hard part. And I can talk about money and the stuff all day. It's crafting all that stuff together. But you and I, we mesh because we can talk about it, and then we form it from there. And so I'm forming my own craft. I'm crafting it, but I'm not having to think from it and type it. You know what I mean? We're like voicing it out together. And that's not a lot of people will do it that way. But it's what works for me. And I think you saw that and you go, well, what about this, Lisa? And I'll go, no, I want to do it. Oh, you know what? And then the next thing I know, I've got a speech crafted. And I'm realizing that I can tweak something and make it a different.
Yeah, because I am not about let's recreate the wheel every single time that we're speaking. Let's just keep like, all right, what can we use from this presentation? Because especially if let's just take this woman who asked you to come back next year. So you spoke about money stories this year. We're going to talk about money management next year. And it's like, what segments can we just reuse And now, like, what do we need to fine tune and craft? You're right. I am all about repurposing, recycling, everything that we have. And I'm a big fan of templates.
Yeah. And finding that, and again, it's kind of the same thing with my clients is it's being shown that it's easier than what it seems. But I don't think I'd be where I'm at as far as the confidence goes and feeling like this is the stage is where I belong. Yes, I want to do more podcasts, but the stage is, I used to think it was like on the news that I belong, and I've changed my mind. And I've just the stage where I'm able to reach the people that I'm supposed to reach.
Great. I love that. Would you share with everybody where they can find you, stalk you, follow you, and continue to learn from you?
All over social media. My Facebook and Instagram is the Sassy Wealth Coach. Personal page, which is a lot of people have followed me, is Lisa SWC. Lisa Marie SWC, excuse me.
All those links will be down below.
Yeah. I had to think about it. Sorry. And then my website is thesassywealthcoach.com. Those are all the places. I mean, I'm always on social. It looks like I'm always on social media. Those are the ways you can contact me, or through my website, and see all the things that I'm about.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your passion, and just sharing your journey from, from that time that you raised your hand and said, yep, I think I want to do the speaking thing.
I know, right?
It has been such a fun journey. And from my perspective, as your coach, just seeing you evolve as a speaker, and you have definitely
have I evolved?
You really have. You have. You've trusted.
So. I think there's more to go, but
you've trusted my process. You trust me and my process. And there are a lot of times, you're right. Like, I see stories and everything, and you do. You just trust me and just like, okay, I'll trust you. And
I'm not sure about this, but okay, I will trust you.
That's right. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your story with my listeners. And for everybody that's out there, we will touch base next week. So make sure you are being in demand.